before you invest in any single family residences or condos or whatever, even if you intend to flip it, even if you intend to flip the property, fix it up, sell it, make a profit, run the numbers on what you can rent that property out for in case you get stuck with it. And what's the cash flow? What's the cash flow between what you can rent it out for versus the underlying debt? And is that a negative? Is that a positive? And the advice is you need more than one exit strategy. You need a plan B, you need a plan C, you need a plan D, because the most dangerous number in any business is the number one, whether that's one lender, one general contractor, or one exit strategy.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Welcome to the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where you will learn top strategies from world-class real estate investors, both large and small. Why not? Tune in and get started today. Hey, what's up, all of my real estate peeps? This is Brian Lucier with another episode of the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where we interviewed seasoned professionals, sometimes beginners, sometimes billionaires, and everywhere in between, where we believe from this platform, investing in multifamily real estate is one of the best asset classes in real estate. However, I have been lessoned up and learned a little bit on a few of my shows, and everybody always has something different to offer, and I learn things on every show. So today, I've got something really interesting for you. This gentleman, I've gone through his website and read his bio, and I can't wait to get into his story because he had a hurdle he had to get over, and I think at the end of this, you're really going to enjoy his story. So our guest today has been buying and selling houses since 2003, in a town with only 40,000 people, now with profits averaging $78,000 a deal. So that's a pretty niche market. He has rehabbed over 475 houses and been involved in over $118 million worth of transactions. He's completely automated his 7-figure income business to where he works in his business buying and selling houses less than 10 hours a week. Pretty impressive. His passion is motivating and teaching other real estate investors how to raise private money without ever having to ask for money. As a result, our guest has consulted one-on-one with over 2,000 real estate investors. When he lost his line of credit with the banks in 2009, he had to get creative and raised $2.15 million in less than 90 days from private money when funding was cut off from the financial institutional lenders. Our guest today has also grown into a commercial developer of shopping centers and condominium communities. He's known as a national speaker on the topics of private money, foreclosures, automation of the operations of your business, and personal development. In addition, our guest is a 2-time national best-selling author and a past president of BNI, that's the Business Networking International. Today, he and his wife, Carol Joy, reside in Morehead City, North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate peeps and rock stars, it is my pleasure to welcome to the show today rising private money mogul and real estate entrepreneur, Mr. Jay Conner. Jay, welcome to the show.
Brian, thank you so much for an amazing introduction. And I'm so excited to be here with you today because we're going to be talking about what I'm so excited about, and that is private money. The reason I'm so passionate about private money is because since I started raising private money without ever asking for money back in 2009, I've never missed out on a deal for not having the money, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. There's nothing else in our real estate investing business that has rocked our world in business more so than using and doing business with private lenders.
100% spot on. In my past, in my history, there were 3 years in a row where we had purchased $1 million worth of property without using our money. We did it all through private money. So I know a little bit about this, but you're the mogul, so we're going to get started in here. And if it's okay, I'd like to fire off the first question.
Absolutely. As my granddaddy would say if he were living, let her fly.
Let her fly. Well, here it comes. I'm going to throw it over the plate. So we know where you are now, but what was your life like and what did you do before getting into real estate?
Well, I was raised in a family. My dad, Wallace Connor, he's 91 and a half years old now, and he wants to make sure you know about that half, 91 and a half. But what a driven dad I've got. He's right now slap dab in the middle of a brand new subdivision, 350 new homes that he is the developer and building that out. But I was raised around Dad growing up in what's called the mobile home business, manufactured housing. Way back decades ago, they called them wobbly boxes and trailers. But anyway, mobile homes, manufactured housing. And one time my dad's company was the largest retailer of mobile homes, manufactured homes in the nation. So I grew up in an environment of helping people own a home, classified as affordable housing. And so unfortunately, in the early 2000s, most of the consumer financing for that product went away. The whole industry fell out of favor with Wall Street. No money for the consumer to finance mobile homes, manufactured housing. So I knew, Brian, if I ever got out of mobile homes and manufactured housing, I wanted to get into flipping houses. And this was prior to HGTV even being thought about, because I started in 2003, right? We're talking over 22 years ago is when I started. And here's the reason, Brian, why I wanted to get into real estate. In 1993, 10 years before I started, my wife, Carol Joy, and I, we've got really, really good friends in New Bern. Craig and Kim are their names, and we're still best of friends today. In 1993, they wanted to build their house. Well, they didn't have money to build it. They didn't have money for down payment or whatever. Well, Kim's daddy was living down in Florida at the time, and he was a real estate investor. He says, I tell you what, Craig and Kim, I'll come up to New Bern, North Carolina. We'll find a fixer-upper. He said, I'll buy it. You all do the sweat equity on the nights and the weekends, and you make it absolutely beautiful. We'll sell it, and you keep the profit for your new house you want to do. In less than 90 days, Brian, they pocketed $30,000 in less than 90 days. And I said, wait a minute. I was still doing mobile homes at that time. I was trying to make $3,000 on a single wide mobile home, and they made $30,000 in less than 90 days on this one little flipper. I said, if I ever get out of mobile homes, I know what I want to do. Well, the opportunity came along in 2003. We closed down the mobile home, the manufactured housing company, and here was my opportunity to begin my flipping business of single family houses. And so that's when I started in 2003. And you know what's funny, Brian? Those first 6 years, from 2003 until 2009, January 2009 to be exact, Brian, the only thing I knew to do to get my deals funded was go to the local bank or mortgage company, get on my hands and knees and put my hands underneath my chin and say, please fund my deal, please fund my deal. And the banker would make me pull up my skirt and show all my personal assets and my financial statements and pull my credit score. That worked out okay, Brian. Okay. The first 6 years from 2003 to January 2009. But then in January 2009, everything changed when I called up my banker to get 2 of my deals funded. That's when this whole world of private money started.
Wow. So you mentioned your dad. I did not know his history, and he's 91 and a half. God bless him. My mother just turned 92, and her boyfriend's 93. So
I love it. I love it.
And they're Irish twins. They're less than a week apart. They dated when they were high school kids before my mother met my father. So now life has a funny twist for them. But let's get back to your dad here. So he was a developer. So I'm imagining when you grew up, the conversations you were having at the dinner table were not the same conversations what I call normal people would be having at the dinner table. And I want to qualify that because normal people, money sometimes is a taboo subject. You don't talk about money because, it's embarrassing. If you have money, you don't want to talk about it because, people think you're bragging. If you don't have money, it's embarrassing. So it's just not a conversation a lot of people have at the dinner table. My dad was a builder too. Our dinner conversations were different. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, you were probably exposed to this at a very young age.
Oh, very young age. I had no more summers off from school when I was 12 years old. And I'm not complaining because I got experience that still serves me today. My dad had an acceptance corporation, which means his company was vertically integrated. He manufactured them, he sold them, he insured them, and he financed them. So how did he finance them? Well, he would finance them on his own in-house paper, and that acceptance corporation would then pull that paper together and sell that paper to Wall Street. That was his acceptance corporation. So when I was 12 years old, I sat in between Harry Moore and Al Jones, mentors of mine that were working for Dad. And so I was in the credit department, and I was calling up people wanting to finance a mobile home. I was verifying employment. I was calling the landlord. How did they pay the rent? You see, this is before having credit scores and Equifax and TransUnion and Experian and all that. It was all over the phone. And we had this little handwritten sheet that CIT, that was a bank out of New York, that CIT put together. It was a 25-point score. You got so many points based on how long you were at your current address. You got so many points if your landlord said you paid your rent on time. You got so many points based on how long you had been at your current employer. And when you added all that up, if you got 25 points or more, you were approved.
Wow. You were doing this at 12 years old.
I was doing this at 12 years old. That's right. Now, the downside of that, I'm calling and I'm verifying employment, or I'm talking to the local furniture store to see if they're making their furniture payments on time. The only problem was they'd say, sure, I'll be right back. Yes, ma'am, I'll be right back. My voice hadn't changed. They thought they thought they were talking to some lady. I'm a 12-year-old kid, with my voice hadn't changed yet. But it was fantastic experience.
Hey, if they'll give you the information and the bank's going to lift up your skirt anyways, let them think you're a woman, right? Whatever, right? As long as you were getting the job done and you were hitting your numbers, however you had to do it. So dinner table, discussions, dad, developer, he's got this vertical, man, all I can think of is like Elon Musk putting all the parts of his own business together. That's pretty exciting, and I'm sure we could go down that rabbit hole, but I want to take another path here. Were there other influences other than your dad while you were growing up that maybe steered you towards real estate?
No, Dad was it for real estate. Now, my granddaddy, my grandfather on my mother's side, he was my spiritual mentor, which really grounded me. I'm not saying my dad was not a spiritual guy, But I mean, his focus was business, 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 business. And I mean, he was in New York all the time, Washington, D.C. all the time, building his business. So I spent a lot of time on the weekends with my granddaddy because he only lived out in the country, 3 miles out in the country from our little town. And so, I just got a wonderful balance. I got a spiritual foundation. By example, I noticed, well, why is my granddaddy doing everything he's doing? It was all about service, all about leading with a servant's heart. I never heard him raise his voice. I never heard him use a cuss word in his life. And then I got my dad, showing me the ropes on business. And I mean, I just can't put a value on the communication skills because Dad, he had his own, personal plane. He put me in the plane and I'd fly with him up to New York and sit in the conference rooms and keep my mouth shut. But just observing how people negotiated and interacted with people. And my dad really taught me how to be the best listener in the world because he listens 10 times as much as he speaks. And so my environment, I'm so blessed to have the environment that I grew up with.
Now I want to be quiet and listen.
Well, you got to ask the question, though.
Yes, I do. I do got to ask the question. So you mentioned Grandpa never used a cuss word, and my father was a developer, a builder, and the Frenchmen, they use a few cuss words. I've heard a few. Especially if they hit their thumb, right, with the nail.
Right.
So, okay, so that's pretty interesting. And I'm glad that you brought out the two aspects of that. You were getting fed your business knowledge, practically a master's class in business as a teenager, and then, your moral grounding to do business well.
Yes, because, it's because of that exposure when I was growing up. I can answer the question, why am I doing all this stuff I'm doing? As entrepreneurs, if you've been a solopreneur or an entrepreneur or heavy driven, you have asked yourself the question more than one time, why am I busting my butt as hard as I'm busting my butt? Why am I doing this? Brian, it reminds me, I was riding down the road recently with a dear friend of mine, and we go to church together. He says, Jay, I want to ask you a question. I said, okay, what's that? He said, why are you doing all you're doing? He said, and I know, you don't have to be, traveling the nation, teaching other real estate investors how to get all this private money for their deals. You don't have to be working all that much. He says, how do you reconcile what the Apostle Paul said, to be content with whatever station you are in life? How do you reconcile that? And I said, I'm not sure I understand your question. Can you ask me that a different way? He said, yeah, when is enough enough? I said, oh, now I understand the question. I said, here's the answer. Enough is never enough when it's not about you.
To hit Apostle Paul, okay, so when would he stop evangelizing?
Exactly.
Right.
That was his purpose.
Right. So you are a hard money evangelist. And
yeah, I go about teaching people what this world of private money is all about. And I'm glad you used the word hard money, Brian, because I want to make a distinction here.
Yes.
Because in today's marketplace, a lot of real estate investors think hard money is synonymous with private money, and it isn't. And the reason they think it's synonymous is because a lot of hard money lenders out there these days call themselves private money lenders. Now, by the way, I'm not poo-pooing hard money lenders. Some of my best friends are hard money lenders. In fact, they actually use my techniques to go raise more private money investments for their hard money lending pool. So a hard money lender is typically a broker that has gone out and raised money for their fund that they then in turn loan out to real estate investors. In contrast to that, in this world of private money is an individual, a human being just like you and me, that loans money out and invests in your deals. And so it's a one-on-one transaction between you, the real estate investor or borrower, and that individual, the private money lender. So in my world of private money, we're not borrowing, hard money is still institutional. That's still institutional money. In this world of private lenders, an individual, and there's 20 distinctions. There's 20 reasons why I love private money over any kind of institutional money. But the biggest one, the biggest difference, I said for years, I'd go to the local bank and get on my hands and knees. That's because when I was borrowing money from the bank, the institutions, they made the rules. That's what everybody thinks the way it works, is whoever's got the money lending it, they set the interest rate, they set the term, they set the frequency of payments, all that. But now over here in this world of private money, the opposite is true. You see, instead of asking for a mortgage or applying for a mortgage, I'm offering the opportunity. You see, I've got 47 private lenders that are now funding our real estate deals. Most of what we do today are single family houses. But if you're into multifamily that Brian talks a whole lot about, it's all the same money. You just structure the deal differently. But I got 47 private lenders, and you know what's interesting? Not one of my private lenders ever heard of private money or self-directed IRAs and how they can use retirement funds to invest in our deals until I did something. What did I do? I put on my teacher hat, my private money teacher hat, and I just went about teaching people initially in my own network, people I go to church with and the road, what private money is and how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely without having a deal attached to it. Here is a writer downer. Desperation has got a smell to it. In other words, if you're teaching and exposing someone to this world of private money, and in the same initial conversation, you talk about a deal that you need funded, you're already sounding desperate without even trying to sound desperate. I mean, the worst time to raise private money for real estate is when you need it for a deal. That's why, here's the secret sauce. We separate conversations. This is critical. You see, this is how you never ask for money. You separate conversations between teaching people what this world is all about and how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely and how they're protected. And then once they say, hey, I like that program, and they learn about self-directed IRAs, and they say, hey, I like that. Then what do? I say, I will put your money to work for you just as soon as possible. So Brian, if you would allow me to take about 60 seconds and do just a little role play with you, I'm going to share with you and your audience how I get my deals funded without ever asking for money and without ever pitching a deal. I've never pitched a deal in my life since I started using private money. So I want to share with you and your audience the script. Here's the exact script as to how I get every deal funded without ever asking for money. So here we go. So Brian, let's hypothetically assume, for the sake of sharing this, let's assume that you and I have been friends for a while. We've known each other. You trust me. You like me. I like you. I trust you. We go to church together. We play golf every week, whatever. We've known each other for a while. And then let's also assume that I shared with you this opportunity of private lending. I call it the private lending program opportunity. And you like it. I've been paying 8% since 2009, no points. You love it because you're losing money in the stock market and you can only get 3% on a CD at the local bank. So you like my program. And let's also assume in this example, let's just assume hypothetically that you have or you had a 401k with a previous employer, and now you're not with that employer anymore, but that 401k is still over there in the stock market and you're losing money. And so I told you about the program. So let's also assume I introduced you to the self-directed IRA company that I recommend to be your third-party custodian. of that money. And you've moved that 100 and let's say you had 150,000. You've moved that 150,000 over to the self-directed IRA company. They're going to be your custodian, but you're truly going to self-direct it. And now the money's moved over. It took a couple of weeks to get moved over. And now you are waiting for the good news phone call, because I told you I'm going to put your money to work for you just as soon as possible. So a week or two go by, I call you up, you pick up the phone, we have a little chit chat, and here's the script. Brian, I have got great news. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house under contract in Newport, North Carolina, here adjacent to Morehead City, and the after repaired value is $200,000. Now, the funding required for the deal is $150,000. That matches up to what you've got. Closing is going to be next Friday. So I'm going to need for you to wire your funds from your self-directed IRA company to my real estate attorney's trust account. I'm going to have my real estate attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's the end of the conversation. Now, let's unpack why Brian is ecstatic to receive this phone call and can't wait to wire these funds. By the way, if I ask Brian, do you want to do the deal? That's the most stupid question in the world. I got to ask him. Of course he wants to do the deal. He's been waiting for this good news phone call. So there's 3 reasons why Brian can't wait to wire this $150,000 to my real estate attorney's trust account. Number 1, he trusted me to move the money. He's already moved his money to the self-directed IRA company. So that relationship, so obviously he wouldn't have moved the money unless he loves the program, right? So he's moved the money. He's not making any money until I put his money to work. He's counting on me to put his money to work. That's why he moved the money over there, right? And then in addition to that, Brian knows I'm not going to bring any deal for him to fund unless it matches the criteria of the program that I already taught him. He already knows the interest rate's 8%. He already knows how often he's going to get payments, because that depends on the private lender. Some need it monthly, some need it quarterly. He already knows I'm not going to borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value. In the example, it's $200,000 after repaired value. He's going to fund $150,000. That's 75% of the after repaired value. He knows I'm not bringing any deal for him to fund unless it matches the criteria of the program. And so he's been waiting for the phone call for the last week or two. And now it's a breath of fresh air. I can finally start making money on my money because Jay is putting my money to work. So the main thing there is there's no pitching. And you taught them about it. You exposed them to this, and now they are looking to you as the expert to follow through and put their money to work.
So far, so good. Is that number 1?
Number 1 of 20?
Well, you said there's 3 reasons.
Oh, the 3 reasons. Okay, here's the 3 reasons why you, in this example, want to do it. You want to do it, number 1, because you trust me. You've already moved the money over. That's number 1. You trust me, and you like the program. Number 2, you're not making any money yet. You're not making any money. So you're highly motivated to start making some money, right? And number 3, you know I'm not going to bring a deal for you to fund unless it matches the criteria of the underwriting, the program that I already taught you. So those are the 3 reasons. And I mean, you know, one thing I had to get my mind wrapped around, Brian, when I started attracting private money without ever asking for it, is that, look, there's no applications. You as the borrower, you're already approved. There's no application. I mean, when the private lender wires the funds, you're approved, right? So, and underwriting, I mean, talk about owning the real estate first between your ears. You are your own underwriter. You underwrite every deal you do by following the program that you already taught to your private lender. So it's a 180-degree shift. Instead of asking for a mortgage, you're offering it.
So these might be a few operational details, but I've got an inquisitive mind. So this note, who knows, like, is it a 3, 6, 9, 12-month note?
Good question. So the length of a note depends on where the money's coming from. So if the money's just coming from investment capital, liquid capital from your private money lender, then we'll make the length of the note 2 years. Typically not going to use it that long, but we do. If it's coming from retirement funds, we'll just go and set it up for 5 years in the event that I sell it on terms and help the buyer get in credit repair and all that. And the only reason we do it for 5 years is that money's not coming back to them personally. Their interest and their returns are going straight into their self-directed IRA account, their retirement. So they're not wanting the money back anyway. And truth be told, the people that have the investment capital, they don't want the money back either. I mean, it's so funny, Brian. I'll go to pay off a new private lender because I finished the deal. And invariably they say, can't you just keep the money? And the answer is no, I can't keep the money unless I've got real estate to secure your note, because I'm not borrowing unsecured money. All these notes are being collateralized and backed by the real estate that we are investing in.
Perfect. So now I have more questions. On the 2-year note, 8% of 150, ballpark 24,000. The 5-year note, ballpark 60K. Who wouldn't do that? Why not, right?
Right, exactly. Now, bear in mind, I'm only going to be paying interest while I'm using the money. So for example, let's say I did a 2-year note and you were my private lender and I did a flip. And let's say I was in and out of it in 9 months.
Sure.
Right?
Clock stops.
Yeah. So when I pay you off, that's when the interest, so that's an APR. So when I'm paying 8%, that's 8% per year. So for easy figuring, if I borrowed $100,000, just for easy figuring, if I had that money the entire year, the private lender is going to earn 8%, $8,000. Yeah, $8,000 of the 100. But if I only had it for 9 months, they would have earned $6,000 on that project because I only used the money for 9 months. Of course, they want that money reinvested as soon as possible.
Yeah, I've worn those shoes, and when you slide that envelope across the table and they open up and say, "What's this?" It says, "Good news, the deal's done and you're paid off." After they frown a little bit, they slide it back and say, "Well, what do you got that's next?"
Exactly.
So there it is. So I also want to bring up something really important too. In my world, if I pool together money to buy a property, that has a different set of rules and regulations under the SEC and all that. You are just doing a promissory note, call it, secured by an asset.
Correct.
No SEC.
No SEC. That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, when you're doing multifamily, most of the time you're going to have a fund when you're doing, particularly if it's a pretty good size multifamily. And so you'll have investors invest in the fund. So that's all SEC. That's all SEC. In this world of single family, everything we do is slang. We call it one-offs, meaning you got a single family house. Now it could be a duplex, triplex, or quadplex, one building. Yeah. But you got a property, you know, single family house, and then you have a private lender, or maybe two or three. You know, you can have more than one private lender secured by the same property, but there's two important points. Number one is called total loan to value. So you want to add up those notes from the private lenders and make sure the totality of those notes do not exceed 75%, the totality of the notes exceeds 75% of the after repaired value, right? And of course, if a private lender is in a junior position, it must be disclosed on the promissory note that they're either in second position or third position. I will tell you from experience, you ain't getting nobody to go in a junior lien position unless you've got the relationship and the trust factor. Even though they're being protected by the real estate, junior positions are higher risk because we're giving them the deed of trust. But if a junior lien position has got to foreclose on you, for goodness sakes, don't ever let them foreclose on you. Just give them the property if you got a problem.
Sure.
But anyway, never had to do that. But from a legal standpoint, if a junior lien has got to foreclose, then that junior lien position has got to inherit any senior lien positions in order to be made whole. But since they're at a little bit higher risk, I pay my junior lien positions 10% and always have since 2009. I pay them 10% and I pay my first lien positions 8%.
I was going to ask that question, so you nailed it. Because the risk is a little higher in the second position, you give them a little more juice.
That's right.
That's fine. That's a really cool story, and I like the way that you unpacked it, that even an art major could understand it. So thank you.
Are you an art major?
I is.
I hear. Now I understand why you have yellow glasses, red glasses, blue glasses, and you're
Yes.
all color coordinated with the outfit. There you go.
Yeah, gotta be. Color is important to me, and I don't know if you can see it, but over my shoulder there, one of the paintings I've been working on. It's still not done yet, but we'll save that for another show.
Well, you're an artist and I'm a composer. I write music, so there you go.
All right. So
Yin and yang, yin and yang.
red and yellow, green and blue. I'm going to jump ahead here. And I love this part of the show. And I really appreciate everything that you laid down there. I've got 2 pages of notes so far just on the first 2 questions. So I'm happy about that. So this part of the show is a little bit of a time machine. You've been 22 years since you started doing the fix and flips and all that when 2023. So this question has 2 parts to it, and I really like this. One part is if you could go back in time and tap yourself on the shoulder 22 years ago and say, hey, Jay, invest in Google, or whatever it would have been, right? What information would you have given yourself if you could go back in time? And then today, with the 23 years of experience you already have, what advice would you give to that newbie sitting on the fence who's getting started today? We'll start with you. What advice would you have given yourself starting over?
Well, a lot, because I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I started out not knowing what I was doing and going to seminars that I did not plan on going to. So one thing I would have told myself is before you invest in any single family residences or condos or whatever, even if you intend to flip it, even if you intend to flip the property, fix it up, sell it, make a profit, run the numbers on what you can rent that property out for in case you get stuck with it. And what's the cash flow? What's the cash flow between what you can rent it out for versus the underlying debt? And is that a negative? Is that a positive? And the advice is you need more than one exit strategy. You need a plan B, you need a plan C, you need a plan D. Because the most dangerous number in any business is the number 1, whether that's one lender, one general contractor, or one exit strategy. Got to have multiple exit strategies.
That was gold. And I like how you frame that. If you're planning on flipping, okay, there's your first exit strategy. But I'm looking at it as cash flow. Equity is always that redhead child at the table that maybe shows up, maybe doesn't show up. Cash flow's got to do it for me or I'm not pulling the trigger. My returns, while I was buying a lot of property, was around 35%. So 3 years I was getting my money back out of a multi, and that was my criteria. I needed to hit that. So run the numbers. If you have to rent it, and it changes the total deal. It's not a flip anymore. Now it's a buy and hold property, different strategy. Do the numbers work? Does your cash flow carry the debt? And are there other strategies?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you know, the reason I would tell myself that if I were starting all over again is because that was a very, very, very expensive lesson on just one property. And, you know, it seems as though in my experience over these years, Brian, the more intense the pain, the more likely I remember it. And I remember that lesson.
Yeah, there's an expression out there I've heard: change occurs when the pain of change is less than the pain you're in.
Boy, now say that again.
Change will happen when the pain of changing is less than the pain of where you are.
Powerful and true. Powerful and true. Never thought of it like that, but it's so true.
It's like that hound dog sitting on the porch whimpering every day because he's sitting on a nail. And the neighbor asks, how come the dog's always crying? It's because he's sitting on a nail. He says, well, why doesn't he get up? Because, well, it doesn't hurt enough yet.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
The dog will move when it hurts enough. And
so true.
I mean, that listener who's out there thinking, wow, do I really want to do real estate? They'll get to a point where their current situation is going to create enough pain.
Yes.
They'll say, okay, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know the unknown, but I have to move forward because I can't
Yes.
where I am.
Well, and what you're saying there, Brian, emphasizes the point. Fear of loss is always a much stronger motivator than hope of gain.
Amen.
I mean, what motivates change? Pain.
Yeah, and
So true.
we call that loss aversion. Yeah,
Is that sort of like fear of loss?
that's the psychological term for it.
Oh, my lands, I'm not smart enough for that.
Well, I think that would be the third book to the left behind you on the shelf up above there. Yeah, loss aversion. People will fight harder not to lose something than
Yes.
to protect the gain.
Well, you see, I knew that was the case. I just didn't know what to call it.
Yeah, you avert the loss aversion. So here we are. We're talking about that newbie. What advice would you give for that guy or gal seeing this for the first time, thinking, whoa, this is interesting. I wonder if real estate could actually work. And psst, spoiler alert, it does. What advice would you give to that newbie who's starting out today?
Well, that's an easy question. Don't start out the way I did. And here's how I started. I started out just relying on my experience in the mobile home business, in the manufactured housing business. I mean, you know, I was running a pretty large operation, had 65 locations, retail sales centers, and had all these employees. And I said, well, if I can do that, I can do this over here. Well, unfortunately, that's a very arrogant attitude. I didn't realize that flipping houses and single family houses are not at all related to selling a mobile home on a retail sales center. It's like two different industries. So don't make the mistake I did, and that is, regardless of your experience, don't start out in this business on your own, for goodness sakes. Get a mentor, get a coach, work with somebody and here's the two criteria: that's proven to be successful, that's made a lot of mistakes and lost a lot of money, and they're still doing it today. There's your three criteria as to who you want to work with. And I mean, I made that mistake. I didn't get my first mentor or coach in real estate investing until I've been doing this for 6 years. That's how I learned about private money. when I was cut off from the banks. And the pain was so dire, I had to go find somebody to help me. And when I was cut off from the local bank, that's the first question I asked myself, Brian. I asked myself this question. And by the way, this question will help fix any problem anybody's got. I don't care if it's financial, health, relationships, career, it doesn't matter. By the way, Brian, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. I'd been cut off from the bank. And here's the question I asked myself. Who do I know that can help me with my problem? Now, my problem became an opportunity, or you and I wouldn't be having this visit here today. It's because of being cut off from the local bank and the global financial crisis that I learned about private money. So I asked myself, who do I know that can help fix my problem? And I immediately thought of my buddy Jeff Blankenship. He was living in Greensboro. I called him up. He told me about private money. I then went and learned about private money, put my program together, raised over $2 million in 90 days. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm making a point. The pain was so bad, I either had to go home with my tail between my legs, or I had to find a better and quicker way to fund my deals. Hence, private money changed everything in our business.
So it's interesting. The Chinese character for obstacle also means opportunity.
Really?
Yes.
Now that is interesting. Well, some wise Chinese guy must have figured that out when he was writing the characters for the Chinese language.
I relate that to William Shakespeare. What's the difference between comedy and tragedy?
Tell me.
When it happens to you.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's a writer downer.
Someone's obstacle is somebody else's opportunity, and somebody's
True.
opportunity could be somebody else's obstacle. We
That's
could
true.
chase that dog's tail all day long.
That's sort of like trash and treasure.
So many stories we could go there. But let's keep it about you. This is your show. One of my interviews, his son found a surfboard in the trash, ended up selling it for $150 or trading it to get a working board because whatever. But yeah, you never know, you know.
That's right.
I'm guilty of dumpster diving. Been there, done that. I've got some.
Well, I've never done that, to tell you the truth.
Well, you know, it's a nice place to find lumber. You know, you don't want to go buy a whole sheet. You can find some lumber dumpster diving. Not that I would advise that. There are nails and broken glass and horrible things in there with crawling around on four legs. So let's stay away from that one. So that was pretty good. Any other advice that you would give to that newbie starting out today?
Get a mentor or coach that's done it. Yes, if they're starting out, particularly in single family, focus your business on investing in what I call first-time home buyer price points. First-time home buyer price points. Because when you go to sell it either creatively on lease purchase or you go to cash it out in the multiple listing service, where do you think the largest pool of buyers of homes are? First-time home buyer price points. So even if you're starting out or you're seasoned, I mean, that's where I try to keep my focus on all of my single family investments is first-time home buyer price points. They sell the quickest because that's where the largest pool of buyers are.
First-time home buyers get a lot more perks if they go to an institutional lender as well.
True.
So there's some meat on that bone as well. So let's talk about a deal. This part of the show I like to call the deep dive. I don't have any submarine music or anything, but we'll go for it here. So there's a couple questions here. What's the best deal you ever did? What type of property was it? How did you find it? And how did you finance it? And I think we know how
Awesome.
you financed it, but
Right.
let's give it to you. Best
Awesome.
best deal you ever did. What type of property? How did you find it? And how did you finance it?
Wow. Well, I've rehabbed over 500 houses so far, so let me think of one that bubbles up. And here's a fantastic one that was just a few months ago. This property, Brian, actually was a oceanfront condominium here in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, right here in our hometown, in our own market. And the owner of the property, there's multi layers here of motivation to sell. So his name was Brian, coincidentally enough. His name was Brian, and he inherited this condominium. It was the top floor condominium, oceanfront. He inherited this property from his parents. Both parents had passed away. He's living out of state. He has no interest in the property. So how did he find me and my team? He went on Google and he typed in search words. I don't know what exactly they were, but we have 75 different phrases in our Google marketing of people looking to sell houses quickly. So he went on Google and he saw my ad and he clicked on it, responded to it. And so he filled out his information online about this property that he wanted to sell. Immediately that was notified to us, came into our software. And so here's his layers of motivation. Number one, it's inherited. Number two, and he didn't have any interest in it. Number two, he's out of state. So not only is he an absentee owner, he's an out-of-state owner. And here's the third layer of motivation. In less than 2 weeks, it's going to the courthouse steps for sale as a foreclosure. So got lots of motivation going on here. So we get him on the phone. We talk to Brian. And here's a big lesson. How did I fund it? I funded it with private money, all private money. And here's the deal. If I didn't have that private money lined up, ready to go and close quickly, I would have missed out on the deal because it was going to sell at the courthouse steps in less than 2 weeks. We got to move now, right? So he was living out of state in South Carolina. I'm here in North Carolina. So he got us access to the condominium. We went over and looked at it. Oh, my lands, Brian. It was a show place, totally furnished. It needed only $11,000 in touch up. It needed an interior paint job, a little bit of, a couple of places in the sheetrock walls, $11,000. Here's the dollars. Here's the deal. So I bought this property.
Ready.
There you go. You got your calculator ready.
Yes.
I bought this property for $425,000 and I closed within 5 days. I closed in 5 days because I knew I had to beat the band before the foreclosure sale happens. So we got Brian to get us a 30-day payoff instruction letter from the substitute trustee that the lender had hired to oversee the foreclosure process. So we got that payoff instruction letter just to make sure everything was all covered. So $425,000 purchase price. Here we go. I bought it. I closed on it. We did the $11,000 renovation in less than a week. It's totally furnished. Put it on, so that stopped the foreclosure because we paid it off. Put it on the market for $595,000. And here's one little secret as to how we sell our houses very, very quickly. We put them in the multiple listing service with our realtor on Monday in a status called coming soon. Coming soon. That means they can see the price. We get an amazing music video on every property that we do, music video. The music video link goes in the multiple listing service. And coming soon on Monday. They can't see the property until Friday when it goes active. So what am I doing? I'm creating scarcity. I'm creating a lot of demand. I want people lined up back to back to back with appointments on Friday and Saturday to see the property because they've been waiting. I just put a property on the market a couple of weeks ago here in Morehead City. I did that same strategy. Coming soon on Monday, went active on Friday. I had 20 showings in 48 hours.
Nice.
And multiple offers. Back to our case study though. So went live on Monday. Went live on Friday. I had my first offer, all cash, sight unseen, for $605,000, $10,000 over ask and list. Long story short, I went under contract, all cash, to sell it for $615,000. Bought it for $425,000, $11,000 rehab. Now here's the takeaways. Number one, seller leads. If you don't have consistent seller leads coming into your pipeline from for sale by owners, you got a hobby and not a business. So consistent seller leads. Number two takeaway, private money. If I didn't have that private money lined up, ready to go and close, I would have missed out. Number three takeaway, relationship with your real estate attorney or title company. I couldn't have closed that deal in 5 days unless I had the relationship with my real estate attorney that could do the title search within 24 hours and close within 5 days. So it all comes down to your systems and your relationships. So if we just run that math real quick.
I've got it.
Did you already run it?
I already ran the math. Your 8% on the 425 was 34,000. Your all in was 436 plus the 34. I believe you netted 179,000 in 2 weeks.
Actually, it was 160, so you're really close. 160. Yeah, I didn't pay the private lender that much money because I was in and out, pretty quickly. But even after realtor fees, I pay my realtor 5%, which in that case was $30,000. But when you net it all down, net, not HGTV showbiz stuff, but net, 160 from how you found it to being able to close quickly and using private money.
So in about 2 weeks?
No, it wasn't 2 weeks because it took a week to close. So we got that closed, but then it took a couple of weeks, really in and out on the rehab. Then I always get the professional photographer and video done. So that took another couple of weeks to get that done. Then we go in the multiple listing service. It was all cash, but their due diligence and all that, it was 30 days to close. So when, we were totally in and out probably within 2 months. Watch out, folks. Brian is running his dusty calculator.
That's correct. You were netting around 20,000 a week when the deal was done. 2 months.
What's that mean? Netting 20,000 a week?
Well, 160, 2 months. I did 8 weeks.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about my net income. Gotcha.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So not too many professions or jobs out there I know that are paying 20,000 a week.
True. True.
And 160,000 in 2 months is more than what a majority of hardworking blue collar people make in a year.
Sure.
Sometimes with double income, they don't clear that. So
True.
Why not? Why would you not do this?
I can't think of a reason not to, particularly when you get your business automated and you got your systems in place. I didn't start out this way, Brian. When I started out, I was running around with my hair on fire, disorganized, working 50, 60 hours a week. But once the systems come in place and your team, that's why we're able to do it in less than 10 hours per week.
Nice. Yeah, that was a really nice story there. everybody won. So
Everybody.
what's the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome as a real estate investor, and how did you solve it?
The biggest hurdle as a real estate investor. Oh, I know what that was. Sort of what I just said. Trying to do everything myself. I had the mindset that nobody can do X, Y, and Z better than I can. Well, when I started dictating, delegating, and disappearing, I actually found out they do that stuff better than I could. So what do I do today? I make decisions. What houses do I want to make an offer on? And of course, all that is tracked in our software system between myself and my acquisitionist. I've had the same acquisitionist for 20 years, talking to all these sellers. But I make decisions. And I love testing new marketing methods all the time for finding motivated sellers. I'm testing one right now. Because of being connected in so many different mastermind groups, I was introduced a month ago to the very first AI driving for dollars service. And so I'm now testing. So what the AI does is using Google Earth Maps, it identifies 16 different points of distress on a house. And so you give the service, your target area, they come back with, here's all the houses that fit the criteria that are in distress. So I'm now, in fact, it just dropped yesterday. I got a direct mail drop that was just dropped to all these distressed properties here in my area. I can't wait to see what kind of results we get. So I'm all the time looking for new marketing methods to locate motivated sellers of properties, because what worked 2 or 3 years ago might not be working so good today. And what's working really good today might not be working so good 2 or 3 years from now. So I'm always testing new marketing methods.
Smart, very smart. Was there a book you say you like to read? When you first started out, was there a book that had the biggest impact on you starting out as a real estate investor?
Well, there's actually 2 books that come to mind. One book that changed the trajectory of my life was when I was 24 years old, Brian. I was in a very dark place, heavy drinker, had no friends, family didn't have much more to do with me, and I don't blame them. Had no money, broke, working in the in the restaurant business, 80 hours a week for a chain. And I woke up one day and at 24 years old, and I said, you know what? There's got to be a better way than this. So I went to the bookstore and I went to the personal development section, and I came across a book titled University of Success. University of Success by Og Mandino. It changed my life tremendously. But now a different book, as far as really opening my eyes to this world of real estate, was written by Ron LeGrand. He's the godfather of real estate. And the name of the book is The Less I Do, the More I Make. And that book really opened my eyes to this world of buying and selling single family houses and creative financing. And listen to the title, The Less I Do, the More I Make. Doesn't make any sense on the surface, does it? But actually, when you dictate, delegate, disappear, and automate your business and get out of the way, that's where your business scales. You can't do it all yourself.
Yeah, it's not the less that gets done. It's the
Correct.
less
It's the less I do.
which means I've got a bunch of who's and how's out there doing what needs to get done. Like you said, they were probably better at it than you were.
Absolutely, for goodness sakes.
So you solved their problem because they love doing that. You solved your problem because you don't love doing that.
Exactly. I say do what you love and outsource the rest.
Too many things I could say there. I'll just let it go. You've given me 2 really good books. I'm going to stretch. Is there a 3rd book you'd add to that shelf?
Yes, The Go-Giver.
It's on my
The Go-Giver. And I actually was so blessed to interview the co-author of that book about 3 years ago. But yes, The Go-Giver. Have you read it, Brian?
Have not. It's been referred to me several times. So every time I go back to the United States, my last day of the trip, I'll go to Barnes and Noble and grab what I can get.
Yeah, but the Go-Giver is a wonderful parable. It's a short read, but I'll just summarize the takeaway. It's all about sowing. It's not about reaping. It's all about sowing. And actually, the author now has a series of the Go-Giver. You have the original Go-Giver in red cover, which is in your hand. That's the original Go-Giver right there. That's it.
So,
But now there's the purple Go-Giver, and there's other Go-Givers for like niches. But what you're holding in your hand is the original book. And I tell you, the having the author on my podcast was just amazing.
so I'll say something so the camera comes over here so people can actually see the book. There it is. There's the Go-Giver. A nice read on the beach. You can do that in a day. Great. You gave me 3 super cool suggestions. Never heard University of Success. So I'll be looking for that one next time I go by. Ron LeGrand. I like that one too. You've nailed all that. Okay. So what's next for you and why not get started today?
What's next for me is already in process, and that is I've reached a station in my life, Brian, to where it really all comes down to impact and making a difference and giving back. So I'm in my 8th year of my podcast, which is called Raising Private Money with Jay Conner. So what's next is growing the podcast. My interest and my passion is to enlighten, inspire, motivate, teach, and educate as many real estate investors as I can to learn what I know how to do. That's why I'm here as a guest on your show. And I appreciate it so much because it gives me the opportunity to give back to all of your audience how this world of private money has just changed my life. And, the secret, out here on being a servant and leading with a servant's heart is nothing attached, no expectations in return. And, I learned so much from my mentor, one of my many mentors that's now passed away, Zig Ziglar, who said, and I'll paraphrase, you help enough other people get what they want, you ain't got to worry about yourself.
Yep. You did really well today, and I thank you for the compliment, and I thank you for the inspiration. 8 years in, I'm in season 2 here, about to hit episode 100, and I love doing this, and I love being able to share all these stories with other people, because when you and I were starting out, we didn't have a podcast that we could go to, hit pause, rewind. What did he say about that again? I like being able to be in this position where I've reached a point where I can mentor other people and give back. And kudos to you, 8 years for being out there, beating that drum and trying to make a difference in people's lives. Good on you, Mr. Jay Conner. Good on you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian.
Well, here's the curveball. Here's the question that was not on your list. And I always love asking this one. I know you've got to call back your other friend there. What's the question I should have asked you today that I didn't?
What is the question that you should have asked me that you didn't? You should have asked me, what's the most important piece of advice that I have received from anybody?
Jay, what's the most important piece of advice you've ever received from anybody?
Well, I actually received it from Ron LeGrand himself. We talked about the godfather of real estate. We were having dinner one night, as we've had many, many times and still do. And I was sharing with him a story about how I just really couldn't figure out why this other gentleman didn't like me. And I just couldn't figure it out. Ron looked at me and he says, Jay, what other people think about you is none of your business. Which the takeaway is stop trying to be a people pleaser, be authentic to yourself, lead with a servant's heart, and you will attract people in your life that are like you, And you will also do the opposite, which is what you want to do as well, and that's repel people that are not like you. They don't have your same core values. Because after all, I want to hang around people that are like me. What other people think about you, none of your business. Be you and be authentic.
Excellent answer to the question I didn't ask you. Thank you. So there it is. We're wrapping this one up. If any of our viewers, our guests, want to get in touch with you, how should they reach out to you today?
Brian, thank you for asking, because what I want to do is I want to give your audience and you a gift as a thank you for spending your time, with us while we talked about private money. And that is, I'd love to give your audience my book, which is called Where to Get the Money Now. And the subtitle is How and Where to Get All the Money You'd Ever Want for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Institutional Money or Hard Money Lenders. And this is a national best-selling book. You can get it on Amazon for $20, but don't spend $20 with Amazon. Let me give you the book. I will express mail it to you. I'll autograph it. I just ask you to cover shipping, a couple of bucks. I'm also going to include with this book 2 tickets to my upcoming Private Money Conference. And these tickets are valued at $3,000, but as a gift, I want to include them as well. And you can pick up the book at jayconner.com/book, jayconner.com/book. And look, I'm an ER, not an OR. So that's ER, which stands for extra revenue. So jayconner, jayconner.com/book, and we'll rush it right out to you with those Private Money Conference tickets as well.
And where and when is the conference?
So the next conference is going to be June 25, 26, and 27 in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, right here in our backyard. Beautiful resort right on the ocean front. We have fantastic networking, but I'll have private lenders at the event for you to network with. We'll actually go on a reno bus tour out to our houses in the field and get to see the houses that we've got under renovation. I'll teach how I found them. I also teach at the event how I find deals before other real estate investors even know that these deals exist. So I teach all 4 pillars of the Private Money Conference: how I find them, how I fund them, how I renovate them, how I can sell any house in 3 days or less, and on the last day, how do you automate this business and get the wealth and the freedom that you want that will allow you to make a difference.
Beautiful. There's the mic drop. That was great. You've done this before, haven't you?
I don't know, a little over 800 times, I suppose.
Give or take 1,000, right? Wow, this is great. I learned a lot today. You gave a lot today. You shared a lot today. Really great stories. And I want to thank you for the vulnerability to expose some of the pain too. Because a lot of people will get out there and say, oh, everything's rainbows and unicorns, but they don't tell you about the nail on the porch. So
I'm going to remember that.
I appreciate, your just honesty about it and being able, you answered every question I had for you. So I want to thank you so much. And again, that website is www.jayconner, extra real estate.com/book. I'll make sure I have that on the notes. Mr. Jay Conner, my guest today, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Any last words for our audience?
Yes. Ask yourself, how long has it been since you did something new that you've never done before?
That's a good question, and I'll ponder that one myself. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate peeps and rock stars, this is Brian Lucier and my guest, Jay Conner, from the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, signing off, and we'll see you on the next one.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jayconner.com/money guide That's JCONNER.com/money guide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconnor.com/money guide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.